Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger podcast. I'm Matthew Brune. Joining me once again is Shea Dixon. Shea, it's Saturday night. LSU gets the 42-10 win over South Alabama, covering the spread for the first time on the season. Should be noted. So all those people that were,
I was wrong.
including
All those
including
people was me.
myself, who had South Alabama in the first half covering, that did not happen. LSU jumps out to a 35-3 lead. Second half was basically just walkthrough for both teams. But South Alabama got a couple stops, a couple picks, and we'll talk about all that. But regardless, 42-10 win. How are you? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. The couple stops, couple picks don't worry me. It hasn't been
Good.
characteristic of Nussmeier this year. And I think, as you know, when you go up 21-0 after the first quarter and 35-3 and the
Yeah.
game's in hand and Nussmeier knows he's not going to play the whole game if it's going to be 45-3 or 10 or whatever it is. He makes throws he's not going to make in an SEC game when it's
Yeah.
tight. At least that's my opinion.
It was very
Uh,
uncharacteristic compared to
yeah,
what we've seen in all the competitive games that they've played, where they were tight, even with teams that they're better than UCLA, Nichols, whatever. He wasn't making those throws. He wasn't forcing those passes. So yeah, I'm not concerned. I posted on our board and tweeted out that's what I do whenever I have like a 3 touchdown lead on somebody in college football 25.
well,
I
he,
just start.
he also threw it 40 times. I mean, for
Yeah.
more than 400 yards. So, yep, he was trying to get after it. He also made some NFL throws, Matty B.
Yes, he
You
does.
tweeted a number of them, but the one to Mason Taylor was a great throw, unbelievably great throw. And then he followed it up with another one right after that to
Hmm.
Aaron Anderson on one of those. Was that the second quarter? Maybe it was.
Yes,
Um,
pretty
but
sure.
at a point where South Alabama still got their guys out there and NFL level stuff.
Yeah, his highlight tape by the end of the year is gonna be really, really fun to look back on. But is that where you want to start? LSU's offense,
Yep.
667 yards.
Let's
Um,
well, I thought it'd be fun
oh yes, let's do it.
if we did a I wrote for the Bengal Tiger. You can read the full
Oh
story, but
yes, thank you. Plug
I
everything.
I did 10 reasons why LSU fans should love the win. Yes, there were hiccups. You mentioned the 2 turnovers. You can call and we'll get into it, but the defense gave up a drive after halftime. It pales in comparison to everything else, which was very good football
Yes.
from the defense. So here's my 10 reasons. I started out with how the game started. The first half showing from Kaden Durham. I haven't seen anything like that, Matty B. Kaden Durham, the true freshman out of Duncanville, looked like LSU's best running back. They start him. Nuss throws a little kind of swing pass to him to start the game, and he runs it 70-something yards for a touchdown. And they get a 3-and-out. They punt it. LSU gets the ball. Durham comes back out. This time they hand it off, and he goes 81 yards and gets right to the one, maybe in. Who knows? They say he didn't. So within 2 plays, the first 2 plays, you have 150 plus yards and what was really kind of 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's fine. Brian Kelly did say after the presser that ankle was the injury, but it's not, or foot injury. It wasn't serious, but they weren't going to play him in the second half. Matty B, a first half of 10 touches, 217 yards, 2 TDs, almost a third. What does this mean beyond this moment for LSU?
Yeah, I think it means that they have found a running back for the future, and that's before obviously Harlan Berry shows up and obviously JT Lindsey as well. But Caleb Jackson going into the year was supposed to be the next coming, and I endorsed that. I think he had all the physical traits to do that. Now, as he continued to get more carries, we saw some of the flaws in his game. Josh Williams is obviously a limited player. Kaden Durham has the ability to make people miss, and then once he makes a guy miss, you can't catch him.
Well,
And
he
that
has LSU track scholarship speed.
Yes, and that's what is obvious. No matter who they play, whether it was South Carolina, UCLA, this game, he is able to run away from people and run around people in a way that obviously the other two backs in this room just are not. And
At
so,
210 pounds.
yeah, and he's a strong guy too. And so it's a very reassuring thing to see because one of my biggest, pet peeves, I guess, of this offense was the lack of top end speed, right, at receiver. And obviously, I know Xavion and Aaron are quick and shifty and all that stuff, but like without Hilton, they didn't have that. Now you have Durham, who can make those game-breaking plays that you need in an offense, because it's hard to drive 12 plays, 80 yards consistently. You got to have these one play touchdown type of guys, and Durham provides that.
That bled into my next thing that LSU fans should love was that for the second week in a row, they had a run game. And a week ago, they had gone for over 100 against UCLA. That's not blowing anyone away, but it was something at that point. And you had seen sparks at South Carolina from Kaden Durham, really by and large. Now tonight, they go for, I think, 237 total.
Mm-hmm.
But in the first quarter, what I really thought was a great thing to see, and granted, yeah, you had two long plays, but one was a run, one was a pass. So 252 yards, 21 points in the first quarter, Matty B. They passed and rushed for 126 yards, dead even. As the game went on, they threw it more. Kaden Durham doesn't play after halftime, but I'll take all the little wins, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's UCLA and South Alabama, but they could have not run the ball well like they did against other teams that aren't
Nichols.
that great. Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
is there, again, and this goes with your Kaden Durham thing, but this 1-2 punch of Josh Williams and Kaden Durham, is that SEC sustainable now? Can they now say we do have a run game we
Yeah.
can lean on?
Yeah, and I think they got some favorable looks from South Alabama at times as well. But Josh Williams, to your point, 5 carries for 32 yards. You take that every day from Josh Williams. Durham, I think even if you take out, I'm gonna try to do some mental math. Even if you take out his 86, that's 6 for 42. So 7 yards a carry from him, even if you take out the big one. Caleb Jackson is still obviously the question mark here. Just really unable to find the seams and explode through them the way we were hoping for. But I do think the running game has taken a step forward, and overall, it's been kind of a positive. I think this offensive line has got figured it out as a run blocking offensive line. I'll say that much, and they don't, and this is kind of getting off topic, but they don't play like Pimpton and Green really like anymore at all. Really, they just stick with Mason Taylor, and then they play three wideouts. So they're comfortable running with this look, and I think they're in a good spot.
Well, look, that means they adjusted.
Yeah,
They went with what works,
yeah,
and they are now turning to a running back. And look, Frank Wilson didn't platoon their running backs tonight. I mean, in the first half, when it was a game, it was Caden Durham. He came out and drive after drive was the guy. So
yes,
I think we might see more of one guy take the lion's share of the touches being Caden Durham than we have it, or even maybe even expect it at any point, no matter how it was broken up.
yeah,
But kudos to the true freshman. We'll see. But I thought that was one big thing. Certainly the run game. Now, the passing game's been working. Nussmeier's outing. You brought up a couple picks. That's fine. I don't worry about that right this second. I don't think he's so turnover prone, especially considered how much he throws it and the gunslinger mentality. Like the two picks he had entering this game, one being Southern Cal, the last play of the game when you're not scoring anyways, and he heaves it down and gets picked. That was uncharacteristic, as you said. But to go for 400 again, now we're just expecting this, that he's going to go out, he's going to throw for 300 plus, he's going to throw for a couple touchdowns. But then LSU fans have said things like, okay, you're in the red zone. Why not just get to the one and sneak it? Why can't they just sneak it? Well, why can't they be a little more creative down there? Joe Sloan was in his bag tonight, Matty B, the
he
quarterback
was.
sneak. He had the draw that was perfect. I think they scored 4 straight touchdowns, opened the game. 5 on the first 6 possessions were touchdowns. But Nuss, I think, has hit a groove to where we can firmly talk about him being one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah. To your point on interceptions, he's now at 200 or 199 attempts on the year, and he has 4 interceptions. And I still don't really count the USC one, but it'll count statistically. So even at that rate, one out of every 50 attempts is more than okay if they sustain that. Especially considering that he's now at 15 touchdowns. So this is a guy who's gonna, like I said, have an incredible year statistically. I think seeing him in that quarterback draw aspect was really good. I think he took a couple hits here where he tried making some throws. Like he tried to throughout, honestly, after the first quarter, he tried to make plays that I don't want to say weren't there, but he was definitely trying to like push the ball into some spots that he
Getting
he
greedy.
didn't. he was trying to get greedy, which you don't hate in games like this. But we didn't see him make those throws, even the non-interceptions where he took a couple shots, like hits, and I was like, oh man, I don't love that. But he was trying to like hold on to the ball and make a play. Overall, I think it was a solid outing. The 2 picks, Brian Kelly let him know. I think it's not going to be a huge concern moving forward, because they've already played South Carolina, who has an elite front and defense, and it wasn't a
Yeah.
concern. USC, similar scenario. So, yeah, 409 yards. Not complaining about Garrett Nussmeier's performance at all. When he's locked in, he's, like you said, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, in my opinion.
We'll get to the Harold Perkins aspect of this in a minute, but I said a thing to love was just the defense's outing. -1 drive, which was the touchdown after half. They went punt, punt, field goal, punt, 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 halftime. They allowed a touchdown, turnover on downs, punt, turnover on downs. That's about
Yep.
as good as it gets, no matter who
Yep.
the opponent is. And this was a team that just had scored 130 plus points on 2 teams the past 2 weeks. Like, I don't care who they were playing. They were kind of in a groove on offense, and LSU shut it down from the start. Like, as I wrote, there was a alternate reality here, Matty B, where it was a tight game at halftime, and they end up scoring 20-something points, and you pull away, and you kind of just leave talking the same way you did after UCLA.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans, I think a lot of media people, including myself, had this. I mean, I had it 41-24, so I obviously expected South Alabama to score the ball more than what they did. So, and I wrote about it. South Alabama was a potent offense, capable of doing things, had an identity, had confidence, and LSU's the one area of this game I was right about was LSU's defensive line completely taking Gio Lopez out of his comfort zone. He was 16 of 22 passing, which obviously is good, but 171 yards, 1 touchdown, and took 3 sacks, and just was very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So,
he only gained 33 yards, and you talked a lot about how he could pop runs on people, even designed.
yeah. So this is a big win, I think, more so for LSU's defensive line and obviously the linebacker position as well. But they really, really got after him, and that's what separated them early on. So, yeah, huge credit to the defense for this performance, because if I'm gonna gas up South Alabama's offense all week, I have to give LSU credit for holding them to 10 points and really doing their jobs. Was it perfect? No, like you said, they had the one scoring drive. They had the one drive that ended at the one. But ultimately, it was more than good enough, and it surpassed my expectations.
The fifth one I had is very simple. A few of these down the stretch here are, but starting fast on both sides,
Oh,
which we have not seen yet. It always felt like, right, that there was you were fast on offense, but it was tight at halftime, and defense makes some stops, and then you're punting some, and far more often the offense was the one having success. But tonight, start to finish, it was 21-0 immediately, basically, and to only allow 10 points for the game, I know Brian Kelly didn't call it a complete game. That's good enough for me in this matchup in terms of how it unfolded. So starting fast, I liked. That's what they need. Obviously, you'll take on an Ole Miss team in a couple of weeks that, while they lost today to Kentucky, we'll talk about that here at the end, but
yeah.
can score points in bunches. So good to see going into the bye week. This one, maybe your thought just briefly, because they didn't play the whole game, but LSU came out and in a game against the top 10 scoring offense started PJ Woodland. I'm talking true freshman here. PJ
Yeah.
Woodland at corner, Ahmad Bro at D tackle or D line,
Mm-hmm.
um, Deshaun
John
Spears at
Spears.
safety.
Yeah.
And this was coming on a defensive series immediately after the only touch had was to Kaden Durham, a true freshman who took it for a touchdown.
Yeah.
You like it. Do you like
Yeah.
this lean on freshmen early? Even if they don't play the whole game, they put them out there right away on the first series.
Was it the mailbag podcast? We got asked about. I was. We got asked about the freshmen. We're like, how many more do you want them to play? They're already starting, 5 or 4 or 5 basically, and others are sprinkled in here. And now PJ Woodland gets a start. Um, the corners I don't think were challenged really much at all. As that was probably the most surprising thing about this game was South Alabama didn't challenge the corners really much as I thought they would. Then now they had the 2 fades against the DBs, which are against the safeties. Major Burns, Jordan Allen gave up those 9 routes. But they didn't really test the corners, again, partially because the defensive line got home. But Ahmad Bro had I believe a TFL. PJ Woodland was didn't I don't think a lot of reception, or at least didn't get targeted a ton. Kaden Durham, who else? Xavier Atkins got on the field a few times. Deshaun Spears had a tackle where I was kind of hesitant because if he missed the tackle, it would have been a touchdown, but he made the tackle. So it's like, yeah, they're putting things together. And I think an interesting point Brian Kelly made in his postgame presser was we've been rotating a lot on defense, and now that it's SEC play, like that's gonna end in a lot of ways. Like they're gonna stick with whether it's Zai, whether it's PJ, JK, whatever they do. Deshaun Spears, like however they feel this secondary is gonna come together, they're gonna put it out there. I think for 80% and 90% of the snaps moving forward here. So first 5 games have been fun rotating around, but at some point you have to figure it out, and I think they have.
And you get the bye week to really then put
Yes.
those guys in a spot where they're coached up and ready to whatever group you're choosing in personnel package that they feel good about it. Speaking of moving forward without Harold Perkins, and I don't want to dissect this too much. It's one game, but it
Yep.
was against a team that had a quarterback, as you said, that can scramble, and had a running back in true freshman Fluff Bothwell, who had kind of been the talk of the town for the first month of the season. As mentioned, Gio Lopez at quarterback runs for only 33 yards, and Fluff Bothwell gets 10 carries. He manages 17 yards out of it. No scores for either of them. 1.7 yards per carry for Fluff. I don't think anybody would have seen that coming on 10 carries. His longest run was 4 yards. I know that the defensive front plays a role there, Matty B, but you look up at the end of the day, and they went with the 4-2-5, or the star package that they
Yeah.
run with Major Burns, and put Whit Weeks and Greg Penn at linebacker, who are the experienced guys. Greg Penn ends up leading the team in tackles, 14. Whit Weeks was next with 9. They both led the way with the most solo tackles among anybody. There were some passes broken up, tackles for loss, you name it. It's just one game. But is there some promise there that, hey, look, they'll be all right with these guys?
I think there is definitely promise. My concern was never with the linebacker position in
It
terms
was
of
with moving to star.
it was having number 8 on the field for an extended amount of time instead of Perkins. Like that was my concern. And Whit Weeks, honestly, it was the best linebacker performance I think we've seen all year between the two, the Mike and the Will, in terms of Whit Weeks and Greg Penn. I think they were fantastic. Like you said, containing Gio Lopez, dropping into coverage a couple times. Whit Weeks had some pass breakups. I thought he was excellent. Penn is just a tackling machine. So overall, like I thought they played it really well. Again, the question mark for me still with this entire defense is the secondary. So it's that 5 aspect of the 4-2-5. I like the front 6 quite a bit. It's just kind of figuring out from there. Now, does Harold Perkins, again, the question was like, how much does it change things? And I don't know if it changes things a ton, but not having his speed and athleticism out there, we'll see against Ole Miss how LSU covers
Right.
that up in terms of that like Sam position, and that is now a star.
Yes, I think that game will be the one that very quickly tells us how they're going to be moving forward. Like you
Yes,
said, the worry or the concern was pass defense, not how they kind of managed
correct.
to get through with a really good D line showing from a group that maybe we wondered about more than we did the DBs going into the season. But yes, very nice performance from the front 6. I don't disagree with anything you said. The next one, I just had to give a hat tip here. I don't need to go through all the stats and
Go ahead.
everything, but Kyron Lacey is a wide receiver 1. He went for over 100 tonight. He'll have his drops every now and then, but he's a dominant player that can go up and win balls and come through for you in the clutch. Getting Aaron Anderson and now Xavier Thomas both to transfer back from SEC schools to Louisiana to play for LSU. They're both Anderson's healthy now and Xavion's here. Xavier in the return game, and then just the little sprinkles he gives you on offense, coupled with Anderson, who's just been on fire every single game.
Yep.
I didn't see that sort of one. I knew they were both good. I didn't know they were going to lean on Anderson this much. And Thomas has lived up to exactly who I thought he could be, and then maybe a little bit more. Like he hit the ground running and is even better than he was at State.
Yeah, Xavier Thomas is by far like the most fun player to watch on this team. Like
Yes.
he
I
is.
like Aaron Anderson too, though. They're both
eh,
similar like that. They're fun to
Yeah,
watch.
they are. And Anderson, it is so refreshing. I knew I wasn't crazy because when you went back and watched like not only his when you went back and watched his high school tape, everybody in the world could see how shifty he was, right? That's why he was he was a top 50 player, wasn't he? Or top 70 player in the
Very high.
country.
He was a baller coming out of
Yeah, he was awesome. You don't just lose that ability. You either get hurt or your confidence dips or something like that.
he
And
got hurt twice.
yeah, and Wilson and the Advocate did a great story on it. He's talked about it, but like this offseason, his dedication and his attention to detail to get back to where he was in high school just has paid a ton of dividends for this offense because now you have him and like you said, and you have Xavier Thomas, two shifty guys that make people miss. I
Yep.
love them both. They're both very, very good.
And this is doing it without Chris Hilton, who didn't play again. And then we know that they brought in CJ Daniels as a transfer who had been over 1,000 yards, who had double-digit touchdowns. And these guys are getting leaned on. Not that he's not. Let's see what Daniels had tonight.
3
4
for 4.
targets,
The
3
most
catches, 40
consistent
yards.
player, the most consistent player on the team because he always ends with like 40 to 55 yards, I
Well,
think.
and we were baffled this week when we didn't realize he had played more snaps than anyone. He'd played more snaps than Kyron Lacey. So
Yeah.
they certainly trust him out there. And I
Yeah.
bet he's doing a good bit of blocking as well if you're probably watching the All-22. But good to see those two sparks from those two guys. I think it's just been impressive through
Yep.
5 weeks. The ninth one, again, simple, the end result. I don't think it should be lost on people that they won a game against a talented South Alabama team that had put together some back-to-back very good games and with a lot of points and did so in pretty demanding fashion. This easily could have been another game where you were just like, man, well, there's these, issues that kept popping up and they gave up 2 busted plays for TDs and, the offense got stagnant out of the gate, something like that. None of that happened. And now you get to go into a bye week, I feel like, with okay, carry a little bit of confidence in a win that I think people just look at South Alabama and think, oh, LSU's going to win. Yeah, and they were, but they did it in a style that I don't think many predicted.
Yeah, I jokingly say they covered the spread for the first time all year, but I think it is indicative of how impressive and how, you know, how the quality of the win, right? Like it is a spread that bet makers make, and even if it was 21 going to this game, they won the game by 32 points, and they did so going up 35-3 at halftime. This is by far the most complete game that they've played this year. Was it perfect? No, but compared to what they were against Nicholls State, and it is night and day compared to where they were last week against UCLA. Even, and I know the second half was much better, but like that first half against UCLA to me was alarming. They did not have that this week, and so I'm
No,
very, very encouraged moving forward. And obviously, Ole Miss losing plays a part in that as well. But I am encouraged that they are on the right trajectory.
the defense has put together 6 quarters of really, really good football in a row going into the
Yeah.
bye week. So that brings me to my final one, and I'll dumb it down to this. I said, look, you should love that you got the win and you're headed to a bye week, so you've got 2 weeks to rest. Do we view Ole Miss through a different lens? And we knew the setup already, Matty B. They were going to have no buys, so they were going to play Kentucky today. They've played nobody to this point, really. Let's be real.
Yep. Nobody.
But they looked great doing it. They're putting up points, all that. Now they get into SEC play. They get Kentucky at home, 11 a.m. Kentucky goes in there and holds them to 17 points. And we saw Kentucky put the clamps on Georgia's offense already. They go on the road. They end up winning in Oxford. 17 points. They got to go to South Carolina. I do believe it is at South Carolina,
Yes,
right?
it is.
That's a game that LSU fans have already experienced this year. It's not easy. They've got a very formidable defense. Do we view, and let's even leave South Carolina to the side, but you do know they're going to be in a game there that's going to take real effort and is going to, for LSU to be sitting around and resting up, you'll get banged up playing that South Carolina
Yeah.
defense.
Yes.
But just this Kentucky game after today, a loss for Ole Miss, do you view that game now of, oh, wait, maybe this isn't one where LSU is just going to give up 70 points as people kind of half joking, half serious thought?
It's twofold for me. I could go on about this for a long time, but I'll try to make it short.
We've got 2 weeks to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, I know we have a lot of time, and I haven't even, I got to go back and watch the Ole Miss game again, anyways, because I was watching it, but like kind of doing other things. Ole Miss got beat up front pretty badly. Like their offensive line got punked in a lot of ways, and LSU's defensive line to me is the strength, right? So they've been very good. That is one area of optimism for LSU fans off rip. If you can unsettle Dart, and obviously a lot of their stuff is kind of short, quickie stuff, that gives me hope.
Right.
Now, on the other side of it, I do think Kentucky's defense is significantly better than LSU's. Like Kentucky, game plan wise, coaching wise, and personnel wise, and
I don't
Kentucky,
know.
I
I
think,
think LSU's got some good defensive coaches. I think that they got
yeah,
some missing parts here,
they just
and they're
haven't,
working with some
they haven't
others
put
that
it
aren't as
together yet.
good.
LSU hasn't put it together yet the way that I think Kentucky has done so. We've seen now against Georgia and
Yeah.
against Ole Miss,
Right.
Kentucky. And the South Carolina game, I watched that when we're scouting South Carolina. It's like that game just unraveled really, really poorly. Anyways, Kentucky is a different, I think, level of defense. But again, LSU, I think, should take some optimism from the fact that Ole Miss's offensive line looked very, very sketchy. They couldn't really run the ball between the tackles consistently. And so if there is a pathway for LSU's defense to get some stops, and then on the other end, I still think LSU's offense is
The
really, really
offense
good.
scores on everybody.
Yeah,
So
so I'm not worried about that. So that's the optimistic viewpoint. To answer your question, I do feel better about that game now than obviously I did last week because, like you said, their best win before going into this week was and still is like Wake Forest, who just lost to UL.
yes, Wake Forest is very bad at home. Wake Forest
Yes.
is not good at all this year.
No.
I do not think anyone's hearts could handle another 55-49 shootout where you put up 700 yards and lose. So hopefully we're not getting that in 2 weeks, Matty B.
Yeah.
That
I don't
one
think it'll
from a year
reach that.
ago was enough in Oxford.
Yeah, I don't think we'll reach that point. Also because like I said, that LSU for the most part has been one to like both of these teams are kind of sustaining drives type teams, so it might be a little slower. But it's still going to be, you know, definitely higher scoring than this Kentucky game was, but still it's going to be a lot of fun. Regardless of what happens with this South Carolina game, which will play a big role in how we perceive this team, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Ole Miss lost the game. It's still a massive game for LSU because of the rest of the schedule. If LSU
Right.
this game, I think you're looking at this team as a very, very good spot right now when looking at the playoffs. If you lose, I think you are firmly on the outside looking in, and because you have still Alabama on the schedule. But this Ole Miss game is kind of really pivotal, obviously, because of that UCLA USC loss to start the year. So I'm looking forward to it already.
All right. Well, that does it.
There you go. There's
42-10. LSU wins. 4-1 on the year. Bye week. Ole Miss in 2 weeks.
anything else? I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed here. They were efficient in the red zone. Obviously, no field goals, 4 or 5. 9.7 yards per play is awesome. Ricky Collins got in there, three passes, 3 for 3. Mason Taylor, 3 catches. I think he's just awesome. And yeah, I think that covers everybody. I think you did a good job with your story. Speaking of which, subscribe to the Bengal Tiger On3. Use promo code WELCOME and get an annual deal for $9 a month.
Less than
Um,
$9.
Less than $9 a month. Thank you. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me right now.
Now you're
But
good.
yeah, check out that deal over there. Use the promo code WELCOME to subscribe to the Bengal Tiger On3. And we have a lot of stuff coming up over the next 2 weeks before this Ole Miss game. Obviously, recruiting is huge with football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and then also all of the football content you could want throughout this bye week. So check it out. Promo code WELCOME for an annual deal for less than $9 a month. Check us out over there in the Bengal Tiger. Anything else before we wrap up? 9 tackles
I'm
for loss. I think we're
I'm good to go. I think we've
good.
touched on about everything.
What a day! What a day of college football.
Yeah,
LSU's gonna jump.
craziness.
LSU's gonna LSU's gonna move up pretty high. I think. I think Ole Miss drops pretty far, is what I will say, because there's nothing to hold on to with Ole Miss. It's like you're gonna, if you just look at resume of Ole Miss, it's like 4 bad wins and then a loss to Kentucky. So
Yeah. and a bad
They're gonna
loss.
drop. I don't know the Utah score right now. They were down to Arizona, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. Miami will drop a few because of that chaos in their game, but they won't drop past LSU. So yeah, LSU could be sitting top 12 potentially. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Then they don't play next week, and if any more teams lose, you move up again.
Top 10 team in Baton
Let's see.
Rouge hosting Ole Miss. Get the headlines ready. It's going to be fun. But yeah, that's all we got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Like I said, I'll leave check us out on the Bengal Tiger On3 promo code welcome over there. Get all of our exclusive stuff and interact with us on the message board. We appreciate all the
That's
support.
where all the fun happens.
That's where all the fun happens. Oh, we have a great time. I'll be on there again till like 1:30 a.m. just watching football
Just
and talking
chatting.
with people. Just that's all we do is just watch football and talk. So come join us.
That's it for
Um,
me.
yeah, leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you all for joining us. We will talk to y'all later.